Donald Trump is mentally and physically unfit and unwell to be the president of the United States. I think the image of him in that destruction zone says it all. We're dealing with a crumbling economy. He's got a crumbling credibility within the White House, and he is a crumbling leader. This is a man who is erratic, is becoming more concerning. This behavior is escalating. He thinks he is Dr. Jesus. He is falling asleep in the meetings. He is posting pictures of him with aliens. He doesn't necessarily know who he's standing next to his wife, doesn't know that she is there. I mean, all of these things. We're in the middle of a war, and we've got gas prices that are going up, and you want a president with some cognition. He is like the crazy uncle that you want to disinvite from Thanksgiving each and every time.
Here's the thing I am struck by, Congresswoman, which is there's chaos in the words. There's chaos even in some of the policy, but the corruption is buttoned up real tight. This from the New York Times editorial board, the title, "There has never been an example of presidential corruption like this." The fund manages to combine three of Mr. Trump's most alarming behaviors. One, it is an obvious form of corruption coming from a president who has used his office to enrich himself, his family, and his allies. Two, the fund continues his pattern of using the Justice Department as an enforcer to punish his perceived opponents and protect his friends and allies. Three, the fund is his latest attempt to rewrite history about the 2020 election and the January 6, 2021 attack on Congress. Given that he is now just setting Republicans loose, Massey, Cassidy, is it possible that we actually start hearing them talk both about the erratic behavior and about the corruption?
No, because the thief in chief has still scared the bejesus out of these Republicans. Now, obviously, yesterday's primary was a continuation of his revenge tour. But this white reparations slush fund that he's just cooked up with Todd Blanche is all about how he is going to give money to his friends, to his allies, potentially to January 6ers. It is a black box of a slush fund, no accountability. You don't know who's going to get it. You don't know how much. And check it out. It's going to close its doors December 2028. So if there are some Republicans that still have a little bit of a constitution or a spine, I wish that they would stand up and raise their hand, because we are looking for them. The whole country is looking for them.
And they don't even need a pocket constitution or a spine. They need to have some kind of self, they want to save themselves, right? Because this is about them losing their jobs in November. Donald Trump will have a job on that Wednesday, no matter what happens on Tuesday. And I think the thing that continues to be confusing to me is that we'll talk to these members of Congress, Republicans, behind closed doors. I'm sure you have some of these similar conversations, and they sound like they should be right here on MS Now with us, right? They see exactly what we're talking about. They have issues with the erratic behavior. They are concerned why he's focused on a ballroom and all this other stuff when they know that the American people are struggling. When you ask them to stand up, to say something, to do anything, do they just shrug you off? Do they say, I can't, I'm scared? What is the reason?
Well, many of them, they're just punks. They're scared. They're scared to say something because they don't want to be primaried. Now, look, I'm not a super fan of Massey, but he's a principled libertarian. And he said, I care about my constituents. And here you have a president that cares more about his revenge tour than the American people. And real talk, he's not winning. I mean, in the elections that count, the R's versus D's, he's losing. He has most of the time. We've overperformed. He's cannibalizing the Republican Party, okay, and getting more sycophants. But real talk, those folks may or may not be there in 4 years. He won't be. I mean, he might be in Walter Reed, but he ain't going to be the president after 2028.
There's so much there, Congresswoman. I am not going to take the bait.
Don't touch
this point about he's cannibalizing the Republican Party. I have, in just watching this, it feels as though they are acting as though they are not going to be met with any consequences. And perhaps they feel that way at the ballot box, and I mean the larger Republican Party apparatus, because of the different things that the president has been doing as it relates to the elections. The executive order that he issued at the top of his term, the election deniers that have been embedded into the federal government, given made-up jobs in DHS to be over, quote-unquote, election security when election administration is settled settled in the states, seizing ballot boxes from an election that happened over 5 years ago, and asking folks to Republican state legislatures all across the country to draw what seems to be black Democrats out of their seats and carve up and dilute the political power of black voters. The CBC has responded to this. You all have put out a statement and called for a boycott, basically, along with NAACP, of Southern college sports over this voting rights rollback. There's a lot of conversation about this online that said you all are putting the onus on the athletes and why should the onus be on the athletes? What else could the CBC be doing? Speak to the strategy here.
So SEC generated over $1 billion last year. Over 40% of the NCAA athletes in basketball and in football are black athletes. So what we're saying is, if you're seeing this gerrymandering happen in these southern states, you got 13 schools in the SEC. And if those 13 schools are going to remain silent, then they're going to turn into plantation schools. And we're not going to allow that. Black folks are not going on plantations again. So we, with the NAACP, are saying boycott. Boycott these schools. Athletes, boosters, alumni, folks that are in those states. Boycott in the streets, boycott through legislation and litigation, which is what we're doing. Boycott with your pocketbooks. Because there's no reason how you should be generating $1 billion off of black bodies when you are stealing black votes. Oh, no.